break this down to the smallest details and cover everything that you have never covered. Okay, we're going to talk about why closed guard fails. We're going to talk about what makes closed guard effective. All right, we're going to look at it from both perspectives. We're going to spend a lot of time on the very, very bland minutia, because that's where the vast majority of an effective guard is, okay? Up to this point, you guys have only understood closed guard probably as being a loosely associated series of moves. If that, you understand how to lock your legs around somebody, you understand how to grab at the collar, but you don't understand the process that's going to be implemented there, okay? After we cover this this in great detail, and this will probably take the better part of the week to get this down, I'm telling you now, this is going to be the boring bullshit. Okay? It's not going to be that fun.
That is one big pile of shit.
But this is what's going to make you good with closed guard. If you understand these principles and you adhere to these principles every time you use your guard starting next week, you're going to really, really enjoy using closed guard. You're also going to think that it's a really, really dangerous place to have somebody, okay? Now, we're going to get into the priorities here in just a minute, but please understand tonight we're discussing this from my perspective, okay? We're discussing this from my perspective being the guard user. Tomorrow night, we're going to cover some of the nomenclature and some of the rules from the passer's perspective. We're not really looking at this week or next week as the passer, but there's some very, very important details that I need the passers to understand so that they can make this work back and forth as we venture through this. Okay? So we're going to go through both. I've posted my teaching schedule when I'm going to be here this week and when I'm not. Next week I'll do the same. So looking at priorities. They're written right over here when it comes to closed guard. Posture, high guard, sweeps, and then submit. Again, the first priority for the guard player is always going to be dominate posture. Now, off of that, we're going to have a little bit of a branch off of that, a little offshoot off of that for grips. Okay, because grips is going to be 99.9% of what we're dealing with when we're in closed guard. And again, we're really looking at this under a microscope of gi only. Okay, so closed guard. Now, most important thing to understand with closed guard is that closed guard affords us a completely lopsided opportunity in the game of jiu-jitsu. Okay, I would go to Vegas on these odds any day of the week if I understood how this actually works. So, what benefit does it give us? Well, we have to understand that my opponent is very limited. He's limited in terms of movement. He's limited in terms of effectiveness. Number one, because he can really only have his attention focused on really one thing effectively, yet he has to divide his attention on two things, really with pretty much highlight on. All right, let me switch to somebody. He really has to have a highlight on one of those two elements. Anybody give me an idea of what he has to divide his attention between?
Posture, guard breaking. Grips.
Guard breaking is one of them, and what's the other?
And defend the submission.
Defending. Yeah. Defending and guard breaking. Those are the only two things that he gets to focus on really right now while he's in closed guard. Now, I get to focus on several things at once, okay? I can sweep, I can submit, all right? There's a lot of things that I can do here that I can be completely offensive in, and he can't. He really is fighting behind the curve entirely when we're playing closed guard. And that's the thing that a lot of people tend to forget, is that when we lock somebody into our closed guard, we've put them extremely far behind the curve. Now they have to focus on breaking the guard open. They have to do it effectively. They have to not lose their balance. They have to not get swept. They have to not get submitted. There's a lot of stuff going on in terms of technical aspect of jiu-jitsu from his side as opposed to my side, okay? So I have very little that I have to worry about. Now, when we start talking about my first priority, it's always going to be posture. So first thing that you're going to have to remember is that you have to have an active guard, okay? So what is an active guard? It has nothing to do with my hands. I'm always, when I talk about posture, from his perspective, he wants to be up. From my perspective, I want to get him down. Now, there's a couple ways that I can do that. Right now, what we're going to do is is we're going to have our partner kind of keep their hands off of us, and we're going to work through the first way that we actually are able to manipulate this guy's posture, and that's going to be with our legs, okay? So we can pull them down in one of three directions. We can pull them straight down onto us with our legs, okay? Now we're going to extend them back by lifting our hips. Now you would think that really the only thing that we want to do is bring them down. That's not true. We want to catch them for submissions. We don't want to necessarily have them all the way down on us because this is not the ideal position to hit a submission. All right? If we're looking for an arm bar and he's way down here on us, what's the problem here?
No space.
I have no space to operate. I need to get turned. Okay, so what I need to look for is this sweet spot, guys, this 45-degree angle that goes from between where his back is up and his body is all the way down. We want to catch him right here. That's our launch point, okay? So where this control of the posture comes in with our legs, we have to be good at moving him back and forth with our legs, because what are we doing to his body when we're moving him like that? We're putting him in that position, that optimal position to attack. So now you should be thinking, okay, there's something new that I just learned. I probably need to be focused on not necessarily how I launch my attacks, but what? Where and when you launch your attacks, okay? This angle has to be abided. You have to abide by this angle. This is a prerequisite right here. So this is the area that we need to be launching. We see a lot of the kids, especially, good solid posture, and we're launching submissions from right here. The only result from here is going to be a broken guard, okay, and an ensuing pass. So this is an immediate disqualifier. So why is the leg so important? Okay, legs are so important because this manipulates him for us. This helps me bring him to me and catch him in that sweet spot. It also helps to break him down so that I can abide by the second part, which is high guard. Climbing my guard up to where now my legs can eliminate his posture. Here's the interesting thing about this. Once I get to this high guard posture and he tries to put his hands in the middle and posture up, he hits a certain magical angle where it gets really difficult, which is about that what? Right about there, that 45, which is my optimal launch angle. Because my legs are up on his back and not down here where his posture is not inhibited. Okay? Very important to remember. Now this can be said if you're like this, okay? Or you're like this. So if you're one of these ones where guard is like, it's really, really hard to get your guard closed around everybody. You may have certain people that you can get your guard closed around. You may have certain people that you can't, okay? Even if you're controlling right here and you have the legs, okay? You still have the ability to control him and bring them to you to lock them up, all right? So there's a lot to be said right here. So the first drill that we want to do is, we want to have our partner just kind of keep their hands floating, all right? We're going to pull them down and to the right with our guard. We're going to extend them back. And I don't want them to get in the habit of sitting back for you. I want you to use your legs, curl them to you and down. So we're going to take them off to the left or to the right. I don't really care which direction you go. Back, down to the middle. Boom. Back, over to the side. Back, middle, back, over to the side. When you bring them over to the side, if you can possibly do so, please make sure that their legs come off the ground. All right? If it's possible. That's going to mean extending them out to a point where they go off to the side. Okay? All right, let's work on here. 1, 2, 3. Successful guard. Your guard will be successful if you're able to control the posture. Meaning, if you're able to bring them down and consistently break them down, you're going to be successful. I don't care what your game plan is, you will be successful if you understand how to break down your opponent, okay? If they're able to manage that posture and stay up, they're going to be successful in the closed guard. Many times, high-level black belt matches, you will see this break, and here there's a reason why. You will see this break a lot. It's fast. Okay? There's a reason why you see that, because he only catches a glimpse of your posture, all right, when it comes time to get up, okay? So, the reason that break is so popular is because they really have a great ability once they get two sleeves to pop up, or once they get two collar control, pop up, break the guard, and go. Now, that break, most of the most successful breaks are going to happen standing up. We have got to be able to deal with that and break opponents down, okay? So first thing we have to understand is grips. The consequential grips versus inconsequential grips, okay? Key battleground grips are going to be for him to have something up here, okay? Not so much down here, not too big of a concern, but these grips are the grips that we have to deal with, okay? So when we first start, prevention is the key, all right? We want to prevent as best we possibly can, all right? So we want to make sure that we're blocking, when we first launch our closed guard, that we're misdirecting the hands and we're covering the collars. We don't want to get into a point where, oh, I got your closed guard and I just let him have that. So the minute that we get into closed guard, we got one of two options. We can either immediately go for posture and start pulling him down, where now are these grips consequential or inconsequential? They're inconsequential now, okay? But if we settle and we have that grappler's pause, which is what I've been trying to get out of many of you guys, a lot of times we'll see this. I've got this control and boom, I get into closed guard and we do this and we just stop, okay? Here's what I did wrong. I let this happen. The minute that I get here, I have to now start deflecting these grips and covering myself to a point now where I can make those grips inconsequential and I can keep him locked down and I can start to shift myself to one side or the other and start working the system that we're going to implement in the coming weeks, okay? So we have to make sure we don't give up these battleground grips, all right? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on breaking opponent's posture, and we're going to do a little bit of hand sparring here, okay? I'm going to start here with my hands covering up the one spot that he can post off of. Why is this spot so important? It's important for you to understand that if his hand is in a certain angle, he really loses the ability to posture himself up. Does it do him any good to posture up off of the mat? None. He can only posture up off of me. So that means that his hand has to be at a certain range on my upper body so that he can posture up, so he can provide himself some measure of support. Now we're going to talk about how we come in here and we break this down here in just a minute, okay? But he has to have some grip up top. So the first thing that we want to start trying to do here is we've got to work a series of breaks. We've got to be able to get up underneath here. We've got to break this grip off, okay? So we're going to start here. We're going to do a little bit of hand fighting, okay? I'm going to use my legs to try to break him down. We're only going to go about 20% of sparring right here. He's trying to grab these grips, and I'm staying closed up and covered up, and I'm using my legs to break him down like I just did. That was a win. He's going to go back. Okay? We're going to start both of us hands up like this. We're going to say go, go. His posture is broke. Okay? Starting here. Okay, go. He won. Close. Okay. We have to have a grip break. So what's our grip break? Our first grip break that we're going to use is I'm going to come underneath. I'm going to grab the sleeve. Okay. I'm going to slide my hand all the way up underneath to where it's under his hand. I'm not just coming right here. This is where everybody screws this up, okay? I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna pop my hand all the way up underneath, and I'm gonna turn my hand away, and I'm gonna break his grip off. So again, my hand slides all the way underneath, as high as it'll go, turn my palm out, and I break it away, okay? So I wanna take my hand all the way up underneath his hand. Then I'm going to turn my hand away. I'm going to break it away. So we're going to go a series of grip breaks here before we start this actual grappling drill, or this actual hand fighting. He's going to get a grip here, coming underneath, pop the grip. He's going to grab with the other hand. I'm going to come up underneath, strip the grip. I'm going to go the other side. Underneath, strip the grip. Close. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Grips. Get in a habit of making one mistake off of the break. Does it do any good? Let's say he commits this hand high. I go here and I break. Boom. To let go. Understand something. You're going to start hearing this a lot from me. 2-on-1, my absolute favorite thing in jiu-jitsu. You're going to hear it a lot. Do we not already have this by default? We now have 2-on-1. We can guide this hand wherever we want it, and when we combine that with what? The leg pull, now we're giving ourselves a lot of danger here. A lot of things we can be very dangerous with. Okay? So now it becomes a timing issue. Everything about your guard is going to be timing. So if they commit this hand, your first instinct has to be strip and what? Pull. Now, I want you guys to understand something here. The goal of close guard is to get the hands committed one side of my center line or the other in any way possible. That means if I can arm drag him here and start to scoot out and work my back attack system, I can. Okay? The very nature of him putting his hand up here to do what with himself? What's he doing here? The very nature of him posturing is dangerous. Okay, now I've committed those hands to one side. And this is where you start to see all that dangerous stuff happening where guys getting their backs taken. Really interesting things. Okay, so we have our grip break. We have our posture. We understand this. Everybody come on this side of my head. You're going to need to see this. I'm going to string all this together a little bit, and then we're going to back up. Okay? So what happens if he gets his hand here? Solid posture. Right? What's coming next is ideally probably going to be a guard break of some sort. My first defense as a guard player is to get my ass up off the mat. Meaning, I'm not going to have my hips down on the mat. This is bad. It's a lazy guard. We can't afford to be like that. Now, Train just called something to my attention a minute ago. Okay? He's like, man, it hurts my knees when you're demoing because I'm carrying all your weight across my hips. How much of my weight is on your hips right now? None. This is an improper way to stack your guard or to set your guard. Okay? Are my hips on the mat? You can pass my hand clean to the other side. My hips are not on the mat. Now my weight is being carried by his hips, and I can maneuver my hips either way I want. If he wants to be effective, now he has to focus on breaking my guard, but in order to do that, what's he got to do with my hips? He's got to pin them. There's a little secret here about guard play. When you play a soup noodle guard, let your ass drop to the ground, you're ineffective. Now watch this, okay? Y'all are gonna see that the inverse is true when we start talking about passing and breaking here tomorrow and the next day. It's a little secret we can do that really makes it difficult. But I can do the same thing. When I wanna lock my closed guard structure on him, watch what I'm gonna do. I lock my hips. There's no amount of pushing. There's no amount of moving. There's no amount of nothing that he can do right here to drive my hips back down to the mat. Go. Drive them. Put them down. Get my hips down to the mat. I dare you. No. Can't do it. Now, break my guard. Okay. Come back. Break my guard. Look at the line of my hips. Gotta break my guard. So when I get in danger, to lock my guard structure on him, what am I going to do with my hips? I lock my hips. Okay? My hips got to be locked. That's the first thing. You'll notice my feet kind of go down in the back. My guard is locked. Right? When I lock my guard is right about the time that they start to posture up to try to break my guard. Boom. My guard is locked. Now I can focus on doing this. Pop. Now when I get ready to do this, now what's going to happen to my guard? It unlocks and I bring him back down. Okay? So we need to understand the function between locking our guard and unlocking our guard. Huge. All right? Huge. So now what I want you to do, it's going to lock his hand high. I want you to get a guard break. Okay, you're going to have your guard down low. I want you to lock your guard. I want you to break. Then he's going to set his hand back down. Okay? And then I want them to try to drive your hips down. You place your hands. I want them to try to use their hand to drive your hips down to the mat. Try to pin your hips down to the mat. And then watch what happens in the interim. Pin, push down. Break my hips down. Incredibly difficult. Okay? One guard break or one grip break. Then I want them to try to, and then lock your hips, and I want them to try to drive your hips down. Then as soon as you're ready, okay, you're going to break again the second time. Pop. And then what are we going to do? We're going to pull them down to us, move the hands off to the other side, and you can stop right there. So first one's going to go like this. Pop. Okay, now he's going to reestablish his grip. I'm going to lock my guard structure. He's going to try to pin my guard. No, it is not happening. Now from that locked structure, head down, and then I move. Let's get it. 1, 2, 3. Aspect of this. So when they posture and they put their hands in, and we cannot break the grip. It's not working. Okay? How do we deal with this? Well, if his elbow is allowed to stay bent or to stay locked, he will maintain posture. The only way will be for me to come and break this down, and I can't pull down on this. This whole thing about you. See, look here. Look at my feet, barely locked. Okay, because he's postured up. Now, when I bring my legs, hold on a minute, completely locked. So it's higher. Knees need to be able to go down. So sit back. So now, when his elbow stays completely locked, he's able to keep his posture. Now I have to compromise that lock some way. I want you guys to all understand the rule. This is a hard, fast rule, and you're going to hear this be a rule from me all the time. Our arm bar is going to be our single biggest threat from gi when we're in gi, we're using guard. Our arm bar. We're going to have to launch it a certain way. We're going to want to come across, always a cross grip. Like I said, to break is the cross grip. But if he comes on top, like he's locked here and I can't break this grip and it's just not working, I'm now going to come over the top of it and I'm going to bury my elbow down because that breaks that structure down. And then what are we doing with our legs?
Lining.
Now we're pulling. Okay? Now we're going to start to work and get off center. All right? So, next drill here, we're going to try to break that grip. No dice, it's not working. I'm going to lock that hand down to me, coming over the top, and I'm going to turn. I'm not just going to drop my elbow. That's not going to work. If he has his elbow locked, I start trying to drop it, that's not going to work. But watch how it does work. I turn. That breaks it down. 1. Then what's the next step? 2. Now we can start to work. Okay? So next step here, try to break. No dice. Coming over the top. Now what happens if he loses the grip and he comes over top of my arm? Anybody know?
Regrip.
We're not just going to keep going over the top. It's not going to work. I'll show you that here in a minute. Okay? Here, doesn't work. There's my breakdown, and I pulled him down. Now, if I want to start coming on the backside, I can start working, but I want to get him broken down. Always over the top. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.